A movie about wearing sunglasses and having bad aim, but also about cyberpunk, sexy androids, and big-ass guns. Hello and welcome to Not Now in Theaters. I'm Will Turntail, and this is my look into Nemesis. It would be reductive to call Nemesis a watered-down version of Blade Runner. It's more like a house blend of the Terminator, the $6 Million Man, RoboCop, a tiny pinch of Escape from New York, and Blade Runner. But forget the borrowing. This film carries its own low-budget, cyberpunk chic, and full-pelt action. Nemesis only eked out $2 million at the box office. It had fans like critic Kevin Thomas of the Los Angeles Times, but it couldn't make friends with theater-going audiences. But it's said to have clicked with the 1990s video store crowd. Sci-fi fans, no doubt, enjoyed its cyborgs, big-ass guns, bloody squibs, dystopian look, noir spirit, and slick cinematography. So was Nemesis a good movie?
It takes more than flesh and blood to be human, Alex.
I can't feel anything anymore.
So yes, it's just a little bit of that there in the trailer, but you can hear that this movie is definitely about action, but also about Alex's internal conflict and existential crisis. The plot of Nemesis. In the year 2027, disillusioned and cybernetically enhanced former LAPD dog Alex Rain is persuaded by Commissioner Sam Farnsworth to track down his former handler and lover, Jared. Somewhat like the plot of Escape from New York, Jared has stolen security information about an upcoming summit between Japan and the United States. Farnsworth needs Alex to stop her from giving the stolen intel to a group of societal rebels called the Red Army Hammerheads. Oh, and now quite similar to Escape from New York, Farnsworth has ensured Alex's cooperation. During his last repairs, the technicians planted a bomb in Alex's heart, but Farnsworth has his finger on the button. So Alex has 3 days to find Jared or die explosively. Will he find her and recover the data? And as Alex discovers the truth of Farnsworth's plans, can he save humanity from a planetary cyborg takeover? Or is it android takeover? The rest of the main cast is here in the transcript, but let me just take you through the stars of this. Of course, Alex Rain is played by Olivier Gruner, Tim Thomerson comes in as Sam Farnsworth, Jared is played by Marjorie Monaghan, and we've also got some really great people here in this cast like Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa, Yuji Okamoto, Merle Kennedy, Breon James, Deborah Shelton, Nicholas Guest, and the list goes on. So what's good in Nemesis? Well, the first thing we've got to call kinetic cybernetic, and it's going to add 4 points. If these special effects are video store quality, this is like the holy grail, gold-plated king of video stores. Bullet holes pockmark the walls, and shot-up cyborgs spark and sizzle. Smoke and broken parts litter the bodies of wounded androids, gory entrails replaced by wiggling, shorting out metal tubes and latches. You can actually believe there is flesh over robotics here, as the movie even dares to show them to you. And a fight between Alex and an android will remind you of the battle between the T-800 and Sarah Connor to cap the Terminator. There's even a gun that pops out of a head, which is a pretty nifty hiding place for a piece. Gene Warren Jr., the visual effects supervisor for Terminator 2 Judgment Day, performed the same role here. And Warren Jr. and crew pull off effects that, rather than the editing cutting away from them, they're happy to linger on. It's an impressive feat of stretching the budget and elevating the scenes. Next up, it's loads of action, which adds 3 points. Flying through glass, fleeing explosions, and firing a whole lot of big weapons, Nemesis has that late 1980s, early 1990s Big Bang popping off all over the place. There is an unreal Hong Kong flavor to the madness, with Alex diving and sliding downhill, firing 2 pistols up at a foe, much like Chow Yun-fat would do in a John Woo film. And the action stays kinetic. Many fans note the standout moment where Alex fires at the floor with submachine guns, an improvised escape that sends him falling through several floors of a building, much like that moment later seen in the movie Underworld. Everyone in this movie has terrible aim, which is especially odd for supposedly enhanced androids/cyborgs, but because so many characters miss the target, the lack of accuracy absorbs into the action feel of Nemesis, making it an awesome excuse to fire a shitload of rounds in every gun battle. And while the budget is low, there are still many action scenes. The film starts with an extended chase, ends with an extended chase, and packs the middle with firefights, fistfights, and escapes. Loads of Angles is up next, which is going to add 3 more points. Nemesis has a standout look that ups the cyberpunk intrigue and keeps the action slick. George Muradian was in charge of cinematography, a creative person I didn't know until now, but he is a Primetime Emmy winner and a cult film veteran. And he and his crew get into some excellent work here. You'll dig the POV cam they take on a couple of exploding shells in the opening firefight between Alex and the Red Army Hammerheads. Our perspective rides the explosive round out of the gun, over the ground, and into the cover Alex has taken. It's a pretty nifty shot. And when Alex fires through the floor of a building, crashing through story after story, it brings in some more POV cam in a really creative way. It gives us a harrowing look down as he falls through the levels, which is cool but somewhat expected. But where this film shines in its inventiveness is that the camera intelligently does the POV cam up now, toward Alex's face, to show the madness of falling through several floors. It's an almost gonzo moment, Alex wailing while he fires through the floors, inadvertently or intentionally clipping a waiting android on one level, sparks flying off him as he goes. But it's not just these moments of fireworks where the cinematography shines. When the LAPD is patching Alex back up after a fight, it's very RoboCop-esque. He's on the table, the machines are working, the sparks are flying, he's laying there, the faded-in stuff of his dreams superimposed over the top of the scene. Much like Alex Murphy remembering his life in RoboCop as it is fading away from him, it's Alex here pondering his role in the world as he is being worked over. And there are many moments of pure existential cool, sunglasses and noir. And now the cult movie casting, which adds 3 points. Director Albert Pyun had Van Damme in Cannon Films' Cyborg. Here, well, it's Imperial Entertainment's poster guy, Olivier Gruner. And Gruner, like Van Damme, isn't a dramatics master. But for this film, Gruner's good looks, aforementioned low body fat, and starring behind the sunglasses sold me as the cynical cop, disillusioned about his role in the conflict between the LAPD and the Red Army Hammerheads. Tim Thomerson, well, it's maybe a stretch to call him the lower budget Bogart, but he's a fantastic actor, best known to me for the lead role as Jack Death in Trancers. But as Farnsworth, he's wonderful at those facial twitches that sell the robot, and he looks badass with a big gun and glasses. And there are hints of that Agent Smith-style disregard for humanity, all brought out by Thomerson. The perfect pairing for Thomerson as Farnsworth? Well, his real-life pal, the always excellent Breon James. You might remember Breon James from my reviews of Southern Comfort or Flesh and Blood, and now the Blade Runner reference in this movie is more complete, as one of the cast members from Blade Runner is actually here. In Nemesis, James busts out a German accent and plays the ultra-precise, exacting number 2 villain with aplomb. Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa is here, whom I have talked about in Showdown in Little Tokyo. If you don't know that film, you 100% know him as Shang Tsung in the original Mortal Kombat movie. What an iconic role, right? As Angie Love, Tagawa puts on a strange accent, like a surfer from the dark side. It makes following his dialogue tough, but it lightens him up and makes him unpredictable, creating an unsettling and confusing character, but in a good way. Yuji Okamoto from Karate Kid 2, Better Off Dead, and American Yakuza, which I just reviewed, brings a little joy in a compact role as the pistol-happy innkeeper. Miss America 1970 winner Deborah Shelton is here as Julian, as in completely here. She comes into the film buck naked and biting. But spend 2 minutes with Julian, and you can see she's always wearing the pants in the relationship. And joining her in the skin game is a little role for a very young, very naked-ass Thomas Jane from The Punisher 2004 and The Mist. And then we have to discuss the film's noir vibes, which adds 2 points. With his long coat and tortoiseshell glasses, Alex has that investigator of the future look, alright. And everyone in the film loves themselves some sunglasses, regardless of indoors or outdoor status, good guys and bad guys, friendly girls and mean ones. There's a voiceover to continue to remind you of Alex's inner struggle and confusion about what it all means. As his body parts are replaced, he's battling machines and discovers he's been on the wrong side of the war. And we have locations like the desolate dystopia that seem to be just outside the hotel in the beginning of the film, or the blue haze and billowy smoke of new Rio de Janeiro at night. So while I love so many things about Nemesis, what's not so good in the film and I thought could have been improved? Well, the first thing we'll call missed bullets, which takes away 2 points. While the action wins from an octane standpoint, there is a bit of missing polish sometimes. One shot in the opening shootout pulls back to show Alex firing at his enemies, who are comically about 15 feet away from him, taking cover. It looks a little ridiculous and took me out of the movie for a few seconds. There's a strange style choice, or is it an error, where Alex crosses his arms as he's firing his guns, which would make his questionable accuracy even worse, right? And while the stuntmen and women fly off buildings and plenty of fire goes off, the film is a little outgunned by other productions. There's just these small kind of sloppy moments, and maybe the scale of it just doesn't quite reach that due to the budget limitations, right? And another negative I found, a winding plot, which is going to take away 2 points. On my first time watching this movie, I missed a lot of the story beats. This is one of those movies that, even though it's in English, may be a better watch with the subtitles on. That's because if you miss something small, you kind of missed where this is going. Alex's journey from henchman of the apocalypse to ally of the resistance is a lot less than A to B to C. It's more like A to B to C to D to E to F. There are a lot of characters with little wrinkles in the story, and there are 3 time jumps in the first 30 minutes. Still, it's not a difficult story to follow, but all of the moving pieces, if you're really not paying attention completely, can throw off a viewer. And then wigs. Just wigs, minus 1 point. During each passage of time that marks the opening 30 minutes, we end up with different hairstyles for Alex. It helps separate them in our minds and was a good choice. But when Alex wakes up at what I think is an LAPD prison, he looks like he's wearing a silly wig. He's let himself go, and the filmmakers emphasize that with a hippie hairstyle for him. And shirtless and with tight tactical pants on, Alex looks like how Charlie Sheen looks in Hot Shots Part 2 when he's parodying John Rambo. Maybe that's Olivier Gruner's real hair, but even then, the whole getup with the wig was just distracting. Alright, so setting aside those petty negatives, Nemesis scores a solid 10 points, and on my scale of let's go watch this movie, should I watch this movie or not watch this movie, I'm definitely going to give Nemesis my go watch rating. Nemesis is a 1990s cyberpunk niche watch. It's a little winding and grinding at times, but it's a sexy robot battle royale in a noir flavor. The camera work, special effects, and action scenes will hold your attention. Sure, a few things about the plot and or a moment of action could have been tightened up, but it's a plucky, low-budget film that's still a must-watch for fans of retro, even current sci-fi action. The legacy of Nemesis. So what's the legacy of Nemesis? Well, despite the film's about break-even performance at the box office, I'm assuming the home video market's success propelled it into a franchise. Nemesis 2 Nebula, Nemesis 3 Pray Harder, Nemesis 4 Death Angel, and Nemesis 5 The New Model were all churned out. The interesting thing here is that parts 2, 3, and 4 were all directed by Albert Pyun. It's not so often that the original director keeps the flame going with direct-to-video sequels, but since that's a lot of Pyun's filmmaking game, I think it makes sense. But star Olivier Gruner was definitely not back. Sue Price, a bodybuilder and martial artist, took over the lead, starting with Nemesis 2 Nebula. But what's really funny to me here? Well, the time-traveling bounty hunter that comes back in time to kill the new lead in that movie, Sue Price, is a monster called Nebula. And Nebula is played by Chad Stahelski. Yes, the Chad Stahelski who 3 years later would be Keanu Reeves' stunt double in The Matrix. And he would eventually become the director of John Wick and all its sequels, partnering with his good buddy Keanu Reeves. So I guess if someone in Hollywood told someone, hey, starring in this low-budget movie, Nemesis 2, could take you places, sometimes starring in those movies really can. I have no interest in watching these sequels. It's said that Part 2 has had complaints that it didn't even look like a Nemesis film, but rather a movie about aliens that morphed into a pseudo-Nemesis sequel. And that's just the second one. So I'm leery of how watered down we must have gotten as this franchise went on. And leeriness, I think, is correct, because Part 3, Prey Harder, as in A Predator and Its Prey, returns Tim Thomerson as the now character Farnsworth 2. And yes, Chad Stahelski is credited here as Nebula again, but I don't know very much about this movie. Part 4, Death Angel, well, this one was shot at the same time as Part 3. Nicholas Guest is in this one, from this movie, the original, but he's playing a different part from the first movie. The film's Wikipedia page points out that Sue Price returns for the lead again, and, quote, appears mostly nude for much of the film. So I'm wondering if these Nemesis sequels are some man's fetish about strong women avenging things? Icky. I don't know. But Part 4 came out in 1996, and then Nemesis 5, the new model, was released in, wait for it, 2017. Wow. So I don't know what popularity you are hoping to cash in by that point. You've made 3 sequels to a basically break-even film already, but there must have been gas in the tank to go for it again. Part 5 does not even have a Wikipedia page. I have to go to IMDb to find out it exists. And yeah, just from looking at the trailer that rolls on the film's IMDb page, I'm guessing its runtime of 1 hour and 11 minutes was tough to get through. Pyun did not come back to direct this one, by the way. In the trailer, the voiceover says the words "free from genetic enhancements" while someone dry rubs the main character's breasts over her shirt. Coincidence? I don't think so. But this looks shitty as can be, like Birdemic type of effects almost. Sue Price did return though as the elder figure training the new model, Ari Frost. And then, if you can believe it, there was also going to be Cyborg Nemesis, The Dark Rift. And if you're thinking it, good on you, that one is actually an Albert Pyun crossover, a mix of his Cyborg film series colliding with the world of Nemesis. Rumor had it the original star, Olivier Gruner, was going to come back and be in it. From what I can gather, this movie was completely shot, but no one released it because post-production could not be completed. Pyun's health problems stopped that, and he announced that he would not be able to finish it. Nemesis has had many home media releases. The movie was released on VHS and Laserdisc in 1992. It was released on DVD by Sterling Home Entertainment in 1998, though it's said to be out of print now. Director Pyun said in 2010 that he wanted to re-release it as an alternate cut with enhanced computer effects, but I don't think this happened. In 2014, DigiDreams released the entire Nemesis film series in high-definition remastering. In 2015, 101 Films Ltd in the UK released their own set of all the Nemesis films on PAL DVD, which I don't even know what that is, and Region B Blu-ray. And lastly, in 2019, MVD Visual released Nemesis on Blu-ray in the US as part of their Rewind collection. It's got the 96-minute theatrical cut, either 2:35:1 or 1:78:1 aspect ratios. The 88-minute Nemesis 2.0 director's cut in SD format, is your head exploding yet? At 2:35:1, and the 96-minute Japanese cut in SD 1:33:1. Plus tons of new and old special features, like director commentary, interviews with the cast and crew, making of, the old trailer, TV spots, and more stuff. Wow, I can't believe how much stuff they packed into that release. Oh, and by the way, the extended version released only in Japan and the German limited edition Blu-rays have a so-called darker ending that implies Farnsworth takes Alex and Max out at the end. But to do that, they had to take out the fight between Alex and Farnsworth, where Farnsworth gets all Terminator 1 with his exoskeleton hanging out. I think I actually saw the alternate ending that's said to be on some video-on-demand platforms where the endoskeleton fight does happen. Then a voiceover with Farnsworth and a woman plays, but without cutting to actual Farnsworth. And then the screen goes black. I'm very confused about what the ending should be with all these different cuts, but whatever. But while it isn't officially recognized that I could find that Nemesis influenced The Matrix, there are some serious similarities, what with all the sunglasses and coats and things. I think it's a coincidence, but it's cool to think about this film being a precursor to it. There were some serious sacrifices made to get the bodies you see in this film. IMDb's trivia page for the film says that Olivier Gruner reduced his body fat to 4% for the role, which I don't think is the case. I'm pretty sure that's so unhealthy you'd be hospitalized or people would intervene and tell you to eat something at that point. I'm not a medical professional though, so what do I know? And in a behind the scenes I watched, Gruner says his body was being negatively affected by being that low and that filming was hard because of the effects on his nervous system or something. So maybe he's right and I'm wrong. And Deborah Shelton, who played Julian, worked out for 3.5 hours a day to get the body she wanted, or that somebody else wanted her to have. You never know. She also is said to have declined to use a body double for her nude scene, and, well, yeah. I mean, if you spend 3.5 hours a day on your body, I guess you don't just say, nah, somebody else can show it off. If you're comfortable with the nudity, right? Thomas Jane, who played the very naked Billy Moon, decided to moon all of us by getting naked with his ass hanging out when he heard that Deborah Shelton was going to be naked. And it said this proved awkward for the stuntman named Bobby Brown, who had to coordinate the fight scene between the two. I don't know what IMDb is implying exactly by proved awkward, but I think we can guess. No word on how much working out Thomas Jane to put his ass literally in the film. Albert Pyun was concerned that holding a gun might harm Mabel Falls, who plays the old lady that takes out a cyborg by pulling a gun from her purse. It's kind of the best moment of the movie. How cute that her name is Mabel, because of course the old lady's name is Mabel, right? Apologies to any young Mabels out there. I think it's a great name in need of revival. But I was kind of laughing because her name is Mabel Falls, as in Mabel she'll fall down, right? Okay, stupid joke I know, and I'm probably going to hell for making fun of an old lady. The abandoned factory we see at the beginning was also used in Doll Man and Terminator 2. So there are yet more connections to those films, as Tim Thomerson was in Doll Man, and the effects wizard in this movie, Gene Warren Jr., was also on T2. There's also one character's line where they say, "I'll be back," and are told, "I don't think so," before getting blown away. Definitely a reference to the Terminator. Oddly, it also says on IMDb trivia that Tim Thomerson served with Breon James in the US Army during Vietnam. As in the same war, or as in the same platoon or something? I wasn't sure. But I think this IMDb information is actually wrong, because when I looked for it online, it seems like they were actually cooks together in a tank company and real-life friends for some time, and that they didn't have to go to Vietnam. But it also says that Thomerson, his then-wife Frances Delago, and Breon James worked as assistants to legendary acting instructor Stella Adler and received free acting lessons. So the Thomerson and James definitely have a history. Don't quote me on the specifics of all this though. Again, online sources are not always correct. I love to rate movie covers in these episodes. Well, Nemesis has a pretty kick-ass set of covers. This DVD cover right here, which you can find by clicking a link in the transcript, has a slick purple and blue haze, with Alex's hand looking robotic and his face a little gashed, like the T-800 in the Terminator. And with what I think are the H-key MP5s in hand, you know the film means action. And just take a look at the font here on the Nemesis title logo. Again, you can click the link in the transcript to see it. Now, as an older millennial, that sends all the juices of the early 1990s, the Sega Genesis, Mortal Kombat, Data East, Konami era flowing back to me, you know? Lastly, this movie takes place in 2027. So my review is just a year early for Nemesis Day. Interesting that the movie talks about cyborgs and all this stuff in the rough future world of 2027. I'm practically in 2027 watching now. And yeah, actually the AI is supposedly here. Well, sort of. Okay, that's all I have to say about Nemesis. Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe for more wherever you're listening from. New episodes of this podcast usually come out weekly. Next up is the dark fantasy classic film Excalibur. It's kick-ass costumes, epic music, and all King Arthur lore. So I'm incredibly excited to jump into that feast of a film with you. Anyhow, that's all for now, and I'll see you next episode. This podcast episode is a production copyright of Overraked Media LLC, located in Sacramento, California. Reference photos linked in the transcript are copyrighted by the Internet Movie Database. This review's factual information was gathered through online sources like Wikipedia, IMDb, or interviews. Misrepresentations and errors are possible, but unintentional. The introduction music was Neon Laser Horizon by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. And then the exit music and additional music are also by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com, also licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. The names of those tracks are Voxel Revolution, Ossuary 4 Animate, The Complex, Overriding Concern, and Proto-Funk. See you next time.